I'm Amy Barrett-Daffin, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Handy Pocket Guide on Sashiko. And this is the Handy Pocket Guide, and I have done embroidery for years, but I have not done Sashiko, so I'm really excited to show you what I've learned about Sashiko. The one thing I want you to know about Sashiko is that it isn't how perfect your stitches are, but how you enjoy the journey along the way. So I have been having some fun doing this, and I will show you my first project. I will show you the tools that you need, and then I will show you how to do it. This is Sashiko, and it is a Japanese art form, and it literally means, Sashiko literally means little stabs, which is stabbing the needle in and out, in and out, in and out. And this first piece that I did is called, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say it right, a Kamon, K-A-M-O-N, and it's a family crest. And there are lots of other designs in the book. You can see the designs on the cover here, and then you can, on the inside cover, and then in the back are all the designs. And these designs are fairly small in the book, but what's nice is you can photocopy them and make them any size you want. So you can just blow them up, which is what I did here. So I took a design about that size and I blew it up on my printer. I think it was about 156%, which is one of the settings on the printer. And then I transferred it. So, like I said, there's a lot of the family crest designs, but then Sashiko gets a lot of its inspiration from nature. So you can see leaves. These sort of remind me of shells, border patterns, and then the bamboo. So all sorts of beautiful patterns in here. And then this is the one that I did. So let me show you how to do it, but first I'm going to show you the tools that you need. So a couple things. This is your traditional Sashiko yarn. So what you do with this is it's sort of like pearl cotton and it's sort of like embroidery floss, but it's not either of those. So you can buy this pretty much anywhere that sells nice embroidery supplies, and of course you can find it online. And it typically comes in a package like this, so you can get that. I also know Cosmo's Thread makes one, and it looks like this, and it comes on a spool. Or you can use good old-fashioned DMC pearl cotton, which is what I used here. I used just regular pearl cotton, and I think it's size 8. So these are the thread supplies you would use, thread supplies. And then you want to use a needle that has a big eye and will be able to make a big enough hole in the fabric so that it pulls the thread, which is doubled up. So you've got your doubled up thread right here. And so the needle needs to be big enough to make the hole for all of that to go through. So Peppercorey has some lovely needles, and then Lucienne has some needles as well. And this goes with the Cosmos thread that I showed you earlier. And these are the needles for that. So a couple different kinds of needles. Then you need a thimble, which I don't use. My fingers are pretty tough, but they do recommend using a needle if your fingers aren't, or a thimble, so you don't poke your fingers as much as I have. And then obviously a scissors. And I don't know, I travel with my scissors, and these scissors are the size that I can travel with. But I took one of those silicone straws and I cut it and I use it on the tip of my scissors so that I don't accidentally poke myself when I'm reaching into my scissor, into my craft bag when I travel. And this is a lifesaver. And then you want to have some beeswax that you can use as a thread conditioner. And literally what you do is you just run your thread through it. I usually do it twice. And then that way you have a nice stiff piece of thread to put through your needle. So a nice beeswax thread conditioner. And then marking tools. And you can do the marking a few different ways. So I'm going to show you that. You can use a regular ballpoint pen, or you can use either on dark fabric, you can use a white marking pencil, and on light fabric, you can use a dark marking pencil. And then the Alex Anderson 4-in-1 sewing tool is great for just if you need to pull out some stitches, or you need to poke holes in, to push something through. It's great for that, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And then the last thing, and the most important, are your fabric choices. And the reason it's important to really understand what choice you're making on fabric is that natural fibers are easier to pull through, and the bigger the fabric weave, the easier it is to pull the needle through. And I grabbed a couple different pieces of fabric just so I could show you what I mean. So I'm actually going to demonstrate on this raw silk fabric that is oak shot, so it's got 2 different colors. I'm going to show you what it's like to try to go do Sashiko through batiks, which I would not recommend. This is another more finely woven cotton fabric that's more like shirting. This is muslin. This is linen. This is another linen, and then this was just a different color of the raw silk. So I have threaded my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and just tie a knot. And I go around the needle 3 times, and I pull it down, and I have a knot. And I learned that little nifty thing from Judith Baker Montano. So the first thing I'm going to try to stitch through is this batik fabric. And I'm doing this just to show you an example of how it works. So you take your needle, and with the Sashiko pattern, which I'll draw in a second, you want to put your needle through, and then you sort of do this pleating motion to get the stitches. And although the needle goes through pretty easily, when you go to pull the thread through, that's where it gets hard. And so I really had to yank to get through it, and it just doesn't, it's not easy. So that is just one. So that's why you don't want to use batik. So let's try it on the shirting and see if it's any better. So we're going to start again. And we're going to go in, and I can already feel this is harder to stitch through than the batik with this thick needle. I'm really having to push hard, and the fabric is getting really, this is really hard to stitch through. And so I'm pulling through, and it's just, my hand's going to get a workout, and I'm not going to enjoy that process at all. So definitely not going to use something like shirting. What I am going to use is this raw silk. And I tested this already to see how easy it is to go through. And I can go in and out, and the needle just glides through. Super easy, delightful. So I'm going to show you how to do the marking now. And what I'm actually going to end up having stitched on, I made this little bookmark. It's going to be a bookmark, and I'm going to put this pattern on it. But for right now, I'm going to trace onto here. So let me show you how we trace the design. You take a piece of white transfer paper. It can have wax or be waxless. It doesn't matter. And then you just want to set it on top of, so I'm going to tape that down. And then I had just pinned these together so I would remember, and then I'm going to lay it in the center right there. And I'm going to tape this down. so that when I'm doing my marking, I don't wiggle around. So it's all there now. The first time I did the marking, I did all the little dotted lines, and what I realized is I didn't really need to do that. I could just draw a straight line if I wanted. And so you start off by making your mark. So I'm just going to go up, down, up, like that. And then I want to show you what it looks like when you make the mark. So see this right here? Those marks show up, and this stuff just, it washes away really easily. It almost, as you're stitching, it goes away. So I'm going to do a little bit more in terms of marking. So I'm going to go down and across. And I'm not doing it perfectly. You know, you can be as precise as you want to be. You could use a ruler. For the purposes of this video, I am not going to, but I definitely could. When I did the tracing for this design, obviously it was quite a bit more organic, so I wasn't worried about things being straight and being perfect. One of the things you want to keep in mind when you're drawing out a Sashiko design is that when you stitch it, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself you know, where you start, you flow. And so when I did it, I started here right at this little spot right here, and I went up, around, and then I sort of went around the whole thing and then filled in as I went. But I did all the way around these big shapes, filled that in, and then went in and did those, and then I did the little circles last. So you're going to go through, you're going to mark up your design, and once it's all done, you will remove the paper and you'll start stitching. So I'm going to stop here. Hold on. I'm going to tear off the transfer paper, and I'm just going to fold it back but leave it there. And you can see the back of the transfer paper. It's a little hard to see, but you can see the indentations. But more importantly, you can see the line on the silk. So I'm going to take the red Sashiko thread, and this is the Cosmos thread. Make my knot, pull it down, and I'm going to go ahead and start stitching. So I'm going to start right here, and I'll start at the bottom. And then I'm going to show you the rocking motion again. So you go in, out, and you want to try to make your stitches uniform, but you know, what I would say is enjoy the process. Don't shoot for perfect stitches, because you know, we all have enough stress in our life, and I don't know about you, but you know, striving for perfection really is overrated. I would much rather enjoy doing something, get it done, and you know, I think I've said this before, mostly I give away everything that I make because that is what makes me happy. And so I'd rather enjoy the process and feel good about the gift that I give than be stressed out because I tried to do it perfectly. You know, and then when I give it to someone, all I can think of is what's wrong with it and not how much I enjoyed the process of making it. So once again, like I said, you do like these little pleats and you pull it through. Just like that. So, and then you can just, like I can see there's a couple stitches that are a little too loose for me. So I'm just going to tug them with my needle and pull them up, and then I can get them to lay the way I want. One thing that I did learn doing this one is there are a couple places where I pulled the thread too tight, and I didn't like how that looked. And so what I'm learning here is when I do a line, I pull it a little bit so that I know for sure it's going to lay flat, and that makes me happier. So my plan is I'm going to try to stitch through all 3 layers because that is what it says traditional Sashiko is. And then I'm going to make a bookmark with this. So once it's all done, I will upload a picture onto, well, I don't know, our Instagram channel probably. And you can see how it turned out. And I'm also going to have something hanging down like from the top, like a piece of ribbon. So this is Sashiko. It's our handy pocket guide. It's by Sylvia Pippen. And we're really excited to have had the opportunity to put this out. So check it out. There's 27 designs and all sorts of tips and trips for successful stitching. So thank you very much and enjoy.